All right. Hello, my name is Brian Hickey, and I'm an Associate Director in the Office for Human Dignity in the Diocese of Joliet. Joining me today is Laura Borkis. She is the Immigrant Support Program Coordinator for Catholic Charities Joliet. Laura, can you tell me about a bit about your role with Catholic Charities?
Yes, of course. So in the Immigrant Support Program, what we do is offer assistance to the immigrant families in the diocese. We have some direct assistance in case they're having an emergency and they need financial assistance. We also have a lot of referrals for other organizations that are immigrant friendly and that can help families with their needs. And we also have educational programs, and we can do workshops about immigration for families, for communities, anything so that the community can be well informed.
Thank you, Laura. And I know Catholic Charities Joliet is doing a great job during COVID to support everyone in the diocese. Today, we're going to discuss issues related to the human dignity of immigrants in the United States as part of our campaign leading up to the Catholic Church's World Day of Migrants and Refugees on September 27th. We'd like to remind viewers that the Office for Human Dignity does not endorse politicians or parties. We advocate for policies that allow for the human dignity of every individual, from conception to natural death. Of course, this short video format does not allow us to discuss all of the implications of certain policies or issues related to immigration. Please go to our Facebook page or wherever you click the link to this video for more resources. All right, Laura, let's go to our first topic, family separation and detention. Can you give us background on the policy and the current status on family separation and detention in the United States?
Of course. So family separation is usually a topic that refers to the zero tolerance policy that started a couple years ago, and that was really big in the news because for several months when families were crossing the US-Mexico border to try to ask for asylum here or in a different status, they were separated, and the children and their parents were detained separately. In order to, the policy was supposed to deter families from coming if they knew they were going to be separated when coming here. But that caused a lot of issues. Well, first, it attacked the dignity of these families and their unity. And it also put immigrants in a very tough situation in which either they had to be detained permanently, separate from their families, or if they wanted to be reunited, they had to agree to be deported and return to the really bad conditions that they fled in the first place in their home countries. So although the policy officially was ended after a lot of public outrage, still it took months, and some may say that still some families have not been reunited because maybe the parents were deported, but the children weren't at the same time as the parents, or it was hard to track how many families were separated during the policy being implemented. And so right now it is still, immigrant advocates are still working with the aftermath of that and trying to make sure that that when the courts said that children needed to be with their parents, that that is happening, and that all the families are being reunited.
Thank you, Laura. And that brings us to our next topic of unaccompanied children. Can you tell me who these unaccompanied children are, and also what has Catholic Charities seen regarding unaccompanied children and how to address their needs once they come to the United States?
Of course. So unaccompanied children tend to come from Central American countries, so usually the Northern Triangle of Guatemala, Honduras, or El Salvador, and also sometimes from Mexico. And so these are children that, just like the families we were just talking about, have made the trek from their home countries because they're fleeing really difficult situations. And sometimes, even though the name says unaccompanied, sometimes they aren't traveling alone, but maybe they're traveling with an uncle or somebody who's not their parent or a family friend. But then the issue is that then when they are, they try to come into the United States, and they want to ask for asylum, and they are detained. They are detained separately from the group that they came with, if they aren't their parents. And so these children are in a especially a vulnerable situation, because it is hard. I mean, it is hard for adults to navigate the immigration system and the detention system, but even more so for children who are on their own and trying to navigate it all and in a different language that they speak. And also right now, because of coronavirus, the border has been closed, and also because of the migrant protection protocols. So it's which is generally known as the Remain in Mexico policy. A lot of them, even though they are unaccompanied children and they are fleeing dangerous conditions in their home countries, and they want to ask for asylum, which is a right given to them in the Constitution, they are still being deported and sent back home after they try to cross into the United States to ask for refuge. So right now the situation is very dire because we're not offering protection to these minors that are asking for help.
Thank you, Laura, for explaining that. And finally, we're going to zoom out a little bit and speak about asylum seekers in general. Laura, how has the process for asylum seekers entering the U.S. changed recently, and where do we want to go from here?
Yes, of course. So generally, also I'll talk about the difference between an asylum seeker and a refugee.
Please.
Because so they are both, both groups are groups that are persecuted in their home country because they belong to a particular social group. So that could be because of their religion, because of their race, because of their ethnicity, or their political views. But the difference is that refugees are processed abroad. So a lot of the times we see refugees maybe from Africa or from Asia, and like they are vetted abroad. They go through a process through the United Nations, whereas asylum seekers they get to the country where they want to be. So in this case, they get to the border within the United States, and when they're here, they ask for asylum. But they are persecuted in the same way. So what has changed is a lot. There have been a lot of changes in policies saying who can ask for asylum and how they have to ask for asylum, and a lot of attempts also to change those policies. Although even though asking for asylum is part of the U.S. law, and it is a right given to migrants by U.S. law, the changes that have been made haven't tried to change the law itself, but just the way that it's applied. So it's like little tweaks to try to make it harder for people to get asylum. For example, the Remain in Mexico policy or the Migrant Protection Protocol made it so that people could not wait in the United States while their asylum cases are being processed, which can take years. But now they have to wait in Mexico in situations that are very dangerous. Sometimes even it is those border towns that are very dangerous for migrants, and they're trying to flee that danger, but now they have to wait. Also, there has been metering, so it's measuring the number of asylum seekers that can cross each day to to ask for asylum, to make their formal petition. And that has also caused backlogs because asylum seekers can be at the border for months and not be able to cross and make their case. And then they're still sent back to wait there. So that is like one of the biggest ones. And now, because of coronavirus, like I was saying, the asylum is practically at a standstill because people aren't being allowed to cross and to petition asylum. And another change is that the U.S. starting October 2nd is going to start asking asylum seekers to pay to file for asylum, which only 3 countries in the world do currently. And now the U.S. is going to join them and ask for about $50 fee. I think it's 50. But just even though it sounds small, it's still a lot for people who are fleeing and who are in danger.
Thank you, Laura, especially for explaining the differences in asylum seekers and refugees. We hear these big terms, but most of us don't know what that means. So I appreciate explaining that. And let us all remember that these are human beings and the human dignity that they have being made in the image of God. We often hear about these numbers or people at our southern border, but we don't often talk about their human beings and their struggles and their desperation in coming here. So I appreciate you so clearly and articulately explaining these 3 issues. And please join us for our next video, which will be posted on a page. So thank you, Laura, and
Thank you.
we will make another video soon.
Thank you.